Hello guys, today we continue with the basics of ecology part 2. Let us now undertake again the study of interactions or relationships between the living organisms. The parasitism, as some will say parasitism, but here I choose to use parasitism for simplicity reasons. This is an association between two organisms of different species where one, called the parasite, benefits from the other, the host, and harms it. A parasite is going to benefit from the host and cause harms. And this can be done in different ways. For example, when a parasite feeds on living tissues of its host, this is able to cause severe physiological troubles, disease, even a death. A parasite can deviate nutrients from its host. If, for example, we take an example of any intestinal worm like a tinea in the digestive tube, this one is going to absorb nutrients that should be transported or absorbed into the bloodstream, which is going to lead to a severe malnutrition. And a parasite is also able, in some cases, to secrete poisons or toxins, which are going also to harm the host in one way or another. By definition, a parasite is a living organism which lives in or in another organism, from which it obtains nutrients, shelter, and gives nothing in return except harm. A host is a living organism in or on which a parasite lives and suffers harm in return. We can subdivide parasites into two categories or types basing on where they are found. For example, we have endoparasites. The endoparasites are the ones that live in their host, and the opposite is ectoparasites. Let's say they live on the outer surface of their host. And remember that this is not regarding animals only. We can have some forms of parasitism in plants too, or in other living organisms of other kingdoms. For example, in plants you will hear about what we call epiphytes, which are plant parasites. You will see some cases of plants that grow on other plants. That's what we call epiphytism, and the plant parasite is an epiphyte. The situation we are provided with here shows that the host population and the parasite population are always in contrast. When the host population is high, the parasite population is low, and vice versa. And the explanation is very simple, because parasitic organisms always cause harm to their host organisms, and this harm can be extended to even a death. That's the reason why the host individuals are going to be reduced in number. This shows that they are going to die, and the parasitic organisms are going to increase in number as they have they are parasiting a big number of host organisms. So a big number of host organisms are being parasitized, and this is going to cause their death in a great number. And once the host organisms have died in a great number, the parasitic organisms also are going to decline, because they no longer have organisms to parasitize. And once parasitic organisms now begin to decrease in number, in that case the host organisms are going to increase again, because the death rate has decreased. Then the birth rate is going to increase, etc., etc., and the situation is going to continue this way. Main features of parasitism. The parasite and the host are from different species, and in many animals, the parasites are usually invertebrates and microbes. Invertebrates, here you have the example of intestinal worms like Tinea, and microbes, for example, bacteria, fungi, protozoa like amoeba, etc. The parasite is usually smaller than the host. This is obvious because by definition, the parasite should be a living organism living in endoparasite or on ectoparasite, okay, the body of the host. So as a parasite to be able to live in the host or on the host, it is obvious that it should be smaller than the host. Host suffers harm as a result of the presence of the parasite. Remember, we have given examples of cases where, for example, a parasite can feed on living tissues of the host by, for example, releasing toxins or poisons into the body of the host, or by deviating, by absorbing nutrients that should be taken into the bloodstream of the host. The parasite gains nourishment mainly, but it could also gain from shelter or protection by the host. The reason of being for parasitism is not always for nourishment. This can be also for the reason of looking for shelter or protection from the host. There are four principal types of parasites. Ectoparasites that live on the external surface of their host, and here we are provided with examples like ticks and jiggers. Endoparasites that live inside their host, endo inside, and we are provided with an example of intestinal worm, a tapeworm here. Remember that Tinea is in the group of tapeworms. Obligate parasites, that will say they live absolutely a parasitic life. They cannot live without a host. The tapeworm comes again as an example. So a tapeworm is at the same time an endoparasite because it lives inside its host. It is also an obligate parasite because it cannot survive outside the body of its host. So it always requires the presence of a host to survive. That's the reason why it is an obligate parasite. And endoparasite because it should live inside the body of its host. We have also facultative parasites. These are parasites that are going to live a parasitic life if they have by chance a host, or they can also live a free life. Here we have the example of amoeba. An amoeba is going to parasitize your gut or your digestive system, where yes, it is a parasite, but it can also be found as a free living organism in the nature, in ponds, in swamps, in pools, etc., etc. General adaptations of parasites. The presence of scolex with hooks and suckers. Here we deal with, for example, Atenea. Atenea presents a head-like structure. The upper one, the upper part, which is bigger than the rest of the body, and that is scolex. Yes, we say it is a head-like structure because it is not a head normally, because it doesn't contain brain. There is no brain in Atenea. Atenea does not present sense organs such as eyes, ears, nose as well. Now that structure known as the scolex presents hooks and suckers that help a Atenea to attach a family or to fix family itself to the wall of the digestive tube, especially intestines. So when peristaltic contractions occur in order to push downwards the food, the tinea is not going to be expelled out of the tube easily because it attaches thanks to its hooks and suckers present on the scolex. Parasites are also going to lay many eggs. We know that, for example, a female ascaris can lay up to 200,000 eggs per day. This is because in case many eggs are going to be killed by harsh conditions, especially, for example, they are destroyed by the acidic medium of the stomach, or if they are destroyed by enzymes, many of them are going to survive in order to assume the survival of ascaris. They have a short life cycle. Having a short life cycle means that organisms are going to reproduce a short time after they are given a life. Let us say that, for example, they hatch from eggs, and a very short period after they hatch out of eggs, they start reproducing too. And that is what you should understand by a short life cycle here. They also have a variety of hosts. That is to say, when parasites are able to parasitize different types or different species of hosts, this is going to assume or to contribute to their survival, because if one host species is not available, another one will serve as the shelter of the host, of the parasite. Another adaptation is the loss of unwanted body organs. We know that, for example, in tinea, the digestive system is absent, the nervous system is absent, the cardiovascular system is absent, the muscular system is absent. Why? Because a tinea does not need them. For example, a tinea absorbs ready nutrients. A host animal is going to digest the food, nutrients are going to be available, and then a tinea will absorb ready nutrients using the whole surface of its body. What does it mean? It means here that the digestive system and the cardiovascular system are not needed in a tinea. Another thing, a tinea does not require to move from one place to another one in order to look for food. It is there in our digestive tube, and then when we eat, food is going to reach where it is found. Then the muscular system, the presence of muscles, is not necessary. It will be absent. Now, if the muscular system, if the presence of muscles is not required, the presence of a nervous system will not be required too, because normally in other animals the nervous system is there to coordinate the contractions and relaxations of muscles to allow movements. So if a tinea is not required to move for the search of food, it does not require the muscular system, it does not require the nervous system. They have flat bodies. Yes, if we take once again the example of tinea, the presence of a flat body allows it to absorb easily, or simply to increase the surface area for the absorption of nutrients. Some have the ability to live under low oxygen concentration by carrying out anaerobic respiration. If we still take our digestive tube as an example, we see that it is obviously poor in oxygen. So living organisms there, or parasites that survive there, they should be able to carry out the anaerobic respiration because the medium is poor in oxygen. In unfavorable conditions, the eggs may remain dormant in a cyst, waiting for favorable conditions. Let us remember that a cyst is an envelope, a hard envelope, a hard cover, resistant cover, which is going to form around an egg or a living organism like an amoeba in order to resist against harsh conditions. So so many parasites will lay eggs that can remain dormant. Let us take the example of a hookworm that so many people know as ankylostoma. An ankylostoma is going to lay eggs that can be discharged with the feces, and when they reach the outer environment, they can resist to drought conditions or other harsh conditions by forming a cyst around them. So they can spend a very long period of time without being destroyed. And this is very, very important to also assume the survival of parasitic species. Parasites have a thick cuticle to provide protection against host enzyme action. For example, intestinal worms like Ascaris, like a hookworm or ankylostoma, they should fight against the action of digestive enzymes. They are not normally digested by our enzymes, and this is thanks to the presence of a thick cuticle covering their body. Most parasites live in the small intestine where there is plenty of already digested food. Remember that all categories of food complex molecules are going to be digested in the small intestine. Proteins, lipids, carbohydrates, all categories of food are going to be digested there, which means that the small intestine is supposed to be rich in nutrients that are going to be used by most parasites to survive. Most parasites are hermaphrodite. Hermaphrodite means presenting both sexes, the male and the female sexes. So if we take the example of Tinea solium or simply a tinea. A tinea is going to be male and female at the same time. So one individual is enough to assume the reproduction, because it is going to make eggs and sperm cells at the same time, and the reproduction will require one parent individual. The use of a secondary host that we call also intermediate host, we take here the example of a mosquito in the life cycle to provide a means of entry into the primary host or definitive host. The presence of Plasmodium in a female Anopheles mosquito is very, very important, because this mosquito is going to transport the Plasmodium from one host to another one. So without the female Anopheles mosquito, Plasmodia are not able to parasitize different host individuals. Then the mosquito is going to be used as a vector, and this vector will transport Plasmodia and spread them into a considerable number of host organisms. And here we give an example of a man, but remember that the problem of malaria is not uniquely regarding a man. The problem of malaria is common to all vertebrate animals. Neutralism is another type of interrelationship between living organisms, whereby different species are going to benefit from their association. And this is illustrated by an example of Rhizobium. The Rhizobium, which is a population of bacteria living in root nodules of leguminous plants. This population of bacteria is going to be used in fixation of nitrogen from the atmosphere, which one is going to be used by leguminous plants in the biosynthesis of proteins. Then another example is the association between fungi and algae, and what we call lichens, whereby fungi are going to deliver carbon dioxide, water, and minerals that will be used by algae to synthesize complex organic molecules that in return are going to be used as a food for fungi. Another example of mutualism is the association between bacteria and ruminants. We know that ruminants, here we deal with herbivorous animals. They are going to feed on grass, and that grass contains cellulose, and cellulose is going to be broken down into simple sugar molecules that will be absorbed into their bloodstream. Remember that we, other animals, are not able to survive relying on cellulose, because we don't shelter special bacteria that will produce cellulase, and that cellulase will be produced by special bacteria to chop down cellulose into glucose, for example. So ruminants, we survive by simply consuming cellulose and grass because of the bacteria they shelter in their digestive tube. Mycorrhiza and roots of forest trees is another example of a mutualism. Already myco, it means fungus, and rhiza, it means a root. So when we say mycorrhiza already, we understand the association between fungi and roots of some plant species. The fungus absorbs essential mineral salts like calcium, potassium, and phosphate ions, which the tree roots cannot absorb and so are shared with the plants. The fungus in return will benefit by obtaining the manufactured food from the forest trees. Commercialism. This is an association or relationship between two organisms of different species in which one organism benefits while the other neither benefits nor suffers harm. The example provided here is between cows and white egrets. When cows feed on grass, the white egrets pick and eat insects being scared by the cow's movements. So in this example, the cows are going to get no benefit. They are not going to get any harm too. But the white egrets are going to benefit from their presence. So this is what we call commensalism. One obtains a benefit while another one is going to obtain nothing, and it will lose nothing too.